This is actually the first time I decided to do something based on underwater photography. The fact that I've done pictures based on underwater photography somewhat recently makes me want to redraw this one. Why do I want to draw all the ones that were based on Taylor Swift songs? I'll never know. Look what you made me do!
Hi guys, this is going to be a Draw This Again challenge, but this time 10 years later. The piece I chose was done in 2011 in May and is called Breathe. It is inspired by Taylor Swift. Now, if you've watched my Draw This Again challenge for Fearless from 2017, which I know a lot of you have because that video, it kind of blew up out of nowhere. These two pieces are actually linked because they were from the same lyric book. But to sum up the reason behind the 2011 piece, back in 2011, I was a huge Taylor Swift fan. I brought all of her albums, I would listen to her music on repeat. But one of my favourite things about her CDs was that the leaflet at the beginning was actually a lyric book, and she would have amazing photography inside of it, especially of her Fearless album. And the two that were my favourites were obviously Fearless and Breathe. That photo of Taylor Swift in the water in that lyric book for Breathe was actually my first exposure to underwater photography. At the time, I didn't even know what it was called, but it was just such a beautiful piece and I really wanted to recreate it, but I knew I wasn't going to do it justice, so I just tried my best. And 2011 me, you tried. The original sketch of Breathe was actually done back in May when I was originally planning to do this video, but life got in the way, as it usually does. And so the sketch was actually left for months. So I ended up having to sketch it a second time. Thankfully, I have just cut that out of the footage. It's why the sketch looks a little bit different when going in for the line work. Sketching it a second time after months actually really helped me get a better perspective of it, and it was like I was viewing the drawing with a completely different set of eyes, and I could instantly see what was wrong and what I needed to change. So something that is different about this piece, Breathe, to Fearless, is that the 2017 version of Fearless was very painterly style. It was a more realistic take. Yes, there was a little bit of line work here and there, but for the most part it was very painterly. And in between 2017 and 2018, I kind of went back into a more cartoony sort of style. Still painterly, but definitely more of a cartoony style. But now I would say my digital art style is very much line work. I just find it so much easier and less time consuming. Yes, I still spent 6 hours on this piece, but painterly pieces have taken me days, if not weeks, to complete in the past. I've also found my art style through doing commissions, so I do digital and traditional commissions over on my Etsy. If you're interested, I'll leave links down below in the description. Commissions actually really do help me out financially, and I do put a lot of love, time and effort into them, because I really want to do your characters justice. Something else you may notice is that this isn't Paint Tool Sai anymore. I don't really use Paint Tool Sai much anymore, if at all really. This is Clip Studio Paint Pro, and it is my favourite program to draw in. It's kind of like an in-between of Paint Tool Sai and Photoshop, so it's pretty much got the best of both worlds. And Clip Studio Paint recently had an update where there's dappled lighting. Yes, please. It helped me so much with this piece. Also, the watercolour brushes in this program, mwah, love them. They're the best. Once I fully got used to Clip Studio Paint, I never really went back to Paint Tool Sai. You can't see the colour wheel, brush settings or colour history because that's where I had my face cam, because this was actually a live stream that I cut down to make a video of. But yes, I do still live stream, though I do it now on Twitch. I was considering coming back to my YouTube channel to do a little bit of art streaming from time to time, but majority of the streams that I would do would be on Twitch. But I'd love to know, do you have a preference of which streaming platform that I would be on, YouTube or Twitch? And what's easier for you? The main thing I wanted to change about this picture for Draw This Again was the background, because before, the background was actually just a copy and pasted underwater scene from Google Images. I didn't even do it. So I at least wanted to give it a go. That included lighting, because the other one doesn't really have lighting in the slightest. There are so many pieces that I could have drawn again for this video, but I chose Breathe because, for one, I wanted a chance to actually compare between the start of an art style and now. This art style has been 11 years in the making now, because in 2010, I actually completely flipped the script on my art style. I went from a realistic, referencing sort of art style to 180 degrees, cartoony, all the characters in the world kind of art style. I found this art style way more of a creative outlet and ways to tell stories. At the time, I didn't really know what it was called, but I enjoy illustrating narratively, telling a story through my artwork, having the characters show their personality in my illustrations. If you're interested in learning more about my art journey, I will leave a link to the video. It's almost a bit like a podcast kind of thing, because it's like 30 minutes of me just talking about the last 10 years and my journey creating content on YouTube as well. So originally, the character in 2011's Breathe was my character Amelia. Now, Amelia does exist as a character still, but in a different circumstance. I revamped her and fitted her into my character universe now, but I decided to make it a slightly different character. I say slightly different because the character I went with is Loki. I found it fitting because Amelia was actually the base for my character of Loki, and Loki is now one of my more well-known characters here on this YouTube channel, especially if you've been following me since I introduced her in 2015, I think? God, it's all been so long. I've also done a lot of underwater photography pieces with Loki before, so I felt it fitting again. Also, her hair complements the water very, very well because orange and blue are complementary colours and it just stands out, and I loved it, okay? Draw This Again challenges are really, really fun, especially if you have art block, because if you don't know what to draw, redrawing something you've already drawn in the past to see how you've improved is a great motivator. With this piece, I get to see how far I've come in 10 years. In May of 2011, I would have been 14, and in year 9 of high school, I think? It's been so long, I can't remember. Which, funnily enough, I remember as the worst time of high school in my entire life. I hated high school in year 9. Year 10 and year 11, my final years of high school got better, but year 9 was the peak of the bullying and everything was really rough. And in that 10 years, I went to college and got a triple distinction star. In 2017, when I did the Fearless piece, I was in the middle of university doing a BA honours in illustration. Now I've completely finished that. I graduated in 2018. I've lost 4 stone of my body weight since I finished university. In between time, I've dealt with some of my mental health issues and have gotten help in the form of therapy and antidepressants. Me doing art is now a business. A tiny business, but a business nonetheless. And I'm saying this because as an artist, everything in your life affects you as an artist and your art style. Changes in circumstance, changes in location, just changes in general really do affect you. For example, in between high school and college then college to university, I felt like within the first 2 weeks of experiencing college and then university, I improved tenfold. Being around other amazing people and changing up what you're used to really pushes you to strive further. I will say, just like all my old digital art before 2014, the 2011 version of Breathe was actually done without a graphics tablet at all. And I think it was at the very beginning of my paint tool SAI knowledge. I was between art programs, so I was taking my traditional sketch, tracing it with my digital art program, and then colouring it. Not the best method in the world, but hey, it got the job done. I was incredibly stubborn and just did not want to use a graphics tablet at the time. Also, all the graphics tablets I used to have were crap. But talking about the shading in the 2021 piece, trying to get contrast right, I've actually improved a lot with my contrast and my mixing of colours. I think this is because of the yearly challenges I've been doing. So I've been doing Inktober, and then after doing 5 years of Inktober, I did Catober, which was my friend's prompt list. And then in March of this year, I did my own prompt list called Marriner, which, if you know my character universe, its name is Mariana because it's as deep as the Marianas Trench, or at least the lore is. But those art challenges, even though done traditionally, it really helped with my traditional colour theory knowledge and what colours mix well with other colours, as well as the sentiment less is more. Sometimes you don't need everything under the sun to have a really good piece. I tend to find my best pieces are usually with limited colour palettes, this one being no exception. And changing the character to Loki was actually a really good choice colour-wise, because her hair was a complementary colour to all the colours that were around her and kind of draws your eye into the piece a lot more. I think the hardest part of this piece was definitely the fabric transparency. I always have a hard time with that kind of thing. So being a perfectionist can also bite you in the behind, because you can just sit there for hours on end, just tweaking the tiniest little thing, or adding more sparkles, or more highlights, or more shadows, or finding new things with layer blending modes. But there was definitely a point where I had to say, no, this is done, because if I don't call it done now, I never will. It's very easy for me to take a piece too far or over-render it to the point where the colours become muddy or something just doesn't look right, so you have to find this fine line. So in contrast to Fearless, Breathe is actually quite sad. Fearless is in a storm in my best dress, Fearless. And Breathe is, and I can't breathe without you, but I have to. They're very different tonally, so I really hope that my drawing of Breathe actually translates well. And I know I did previous sketches for other Taylor Swift songs, so if you would actually like to see those done as Draw This Again videos, I'd love to know down in the comments. I have Haunted, Untouchable, Forever and Always, and Mean. I definitely remember there being more than that, so we'll see what I can find while I'm editing. But as for the 2021 version of Breathe, I want to know, do you think I've improved in the last 10 years? Because I think I've improved at least a little bit. Just a tiny bit. But in all seriousness, I think that the 2011 version and the 2021 version are night and day in comparison. And it's crazy that I did both of these pieces of artwork 10 years apart. 14-year-old me could have only dreamt of artwork like this. But it does go to show, whatever age you are, you can always learn a new skill. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, click like and subscribe if you haven't already, with post notifications on, for notifications for every time I upload, because I'm very inconsistent. And I'll see you in my next video of whatever I decide to make. Bye!